The Force, a mystifying energy field that permeates every aspect of the galaxy, has long been the central theme in the power struggle between the Jedi and the Sith. Both factions have devoted themselves to mastering the Force, but their philosophies differ radically. The Jedi seek harmony through discipline, selflessness, and strict adherence to the light side. The Sith, on the other hand, embrace emotion, passion, and ambition, using the dark side to fuel their quest for dominance. Despite their opposing ideologies, both groups share one critical flaw: their belief that they can control the Force. This hubris often blinds them to the true nature of the Force, which resists such control and instead finds balance through chaos. The fall of the Jedi Order during the events of Order 66 and the eventual demise of Emperor Palpatine mark pivotal moments in the galaxy's history, demonstrating the Force's inherent drive to restore equilibrium. The Jedi, having become deeply entrenched in their rigid code and institutional structure, failed to recognize how their detachment and dogma distanced them from the natural flow of the Force. For centuries, they acted as peacekeepers, yet their influence extended beyond mere protection. They shaped galactic politics, often dictating the terms of governance and moral conduct. In doing so, they disrupted the natural ebb and flow of the Force, imposing their version of order upon it. The Sith, particularly under the reign of Palpatine, epitomized the other extreme. Palpatine's rise to power was not merely the result of his political cunning, but also his unparalleled manipulation of the dark side. Through schemes and deceptions spanning decades, he systematically dismantled the Jedi Order and concentrated power in himself. The Sith's dominance under Palpatine was absolute, a stark contrast to the Jedi's widespread but often fragmented influence. However, the Sith's control over the Force was just as artificial as the Jedi's, albeit more aggressive. The dark side thrives on imbalance, feeding off fear, anger, and hatred. But even this cannot last indefinitely, as the Force's ultimate goal is balance, not perpetual darkness. Order 66 stands as a testament to the Force correcting the imbalance caused by the Jedi's long-standing dominance. In executing this order, Palpatine wiped out most of the Jedi, an act that seemingly tipped the scales entirely in favor of the Sith. However, this was not the end of the story. The eradication of the Jedi was not solely a triumph of darkness but a recalibration of the Force. With the Jedi gone, the galaxy was thrust into a period of chaos, where old structures were dismantled and new powers emerged. This chaos was necessary, as it allowed for the eventual rise of individuals who would play key roles in restoring balance. Luke Skywalker's journey epitomizes this restoration process. Unlike the Jedi of old, Luke was not bound by the dogmatic restrictions of the Jedi Order. His training under Yoda, while rooted in the ancient teachings, was adapted to the realities of a galaxy dominated by the Empire. Luke's connection to the Force was more intuitive, guided by personal experience rather than institutional doctrine. His confrontation with Darth Vader and subsequent refusal to kill him, despite the Emperor's manipulations, underscored a fundamental shift in understanding the Force. By embracing compassion over vengeance, Luke broke the cycle of violence perpetuated by both the Jedi and the Sith. Palpatine's death, brought about by Vader's final act of redemption, was another significant moment in the Force's balancing act. The Sith's reign, characterized by tyranny and oppression, was unsustainable. In the end, it was not a Jedi, but Vader, once a Jedi, then a Sith, and finally, a father who destroyed the Emperor. This act of defiance was not merely personal, it symbolized the Force reclaiming its natural state. The destruction of the Sith duo did not herald the return of Jedi dominance, but rather a period of uncertainty and renewal. It was in this chaos that the galaxy found a fleeting moment of balance. The concept of balance in the Force does not align with the simplistic notion of good triumphing over evil. Instead, balance arises when neither side light nor dark holds unchecked power. The Force is not meant to be wielded as a tool for domination or control. The Jedi, in their quest for peace and stability, often sought to suppress emotions and desires which are intrinsic to life. The Sith, conversely, sought to amplify these traits to the point of destructive excess. Both approaches, though rooted in different philosophies, ultimately disrupted the Force's equilibrium. In this context, chaos serves as a mechanism for balance. When one side overextends its reach, the Force reacts by instigating disorder, breaking down established hierarchies, and paving the way for renewal. This cycle is evident throughout galactic history. The fall of the Old Republic, the rise of the Empire, and the subsequent rebellion all illustrate the Force's method of restoring balance through upheaval. These periods of instability are not mere historical accidents, but manifestations of the Force's intrinsic nature. Palpatine's belief in his ability to control the Force was his greatest folly. His meticulous planning and manipulation of events, from engineering the Clone Wars to corrupting Anakin Skywalker, showcased his mastery of the dark side. Yet, despite his power, he could not escape the Force's inherent drive towards balance. His resurrection in later years, though a testament to his tenacity, ultimately reinforced the cyclical nature of the Force. Each attempt to dominate it only delayed the inevitable recalibration. The Force does not favor one ideology over another. Its purpose is not aligned with the goals of the Jedi or the Sith. Instead, it operates on a level beyond mortal comprehension, ensuring that no single entity or philosophy can impose permanent order upon it. This understanding challenges the traditional narratives of heroism and villainy, suggesting that both the triumphs and failures of the Jedi and Sith are part of a larger, cosmic design. The death of Palpatine and the subsequent collapse of the Sith Empire marked a crucial point in the Force's ongoing quest for balance, but it did not signify an end to the galaxy's struggles. In the aftermath of the Sith's downfall, the galaxy entered a new era of political and spiritual uncertainty. This period exemplified how the Force relies on chaos as a corrective force. The destruction of the Empire left a vacuum, and in the process of filling that void, various factions and ideologies rose to prominence, each vying for control. This turbulence was not a sign of imbalance, but rather a necessary stage in the natural order of the Force. The New Republic, formed as a successor to the Old Republic, struggled to establish its authority in a galaxy scarred by decades of war and oppression. This struggle highlighted the limitations of trying to impose order from the top down. Even though the Jedi had been restored, their influence remained marginal compared to their past dominance. Luke Skywalker, the last of the old Jedi and the first of the new, understood that the Jedi could not simply return to their former role as enforcers of galactic order. The lessons of the past were clear. Any attempt to dominate or monopolize the Force would inevitably lead to conflict. Luke's later disillusionment with the Jedi Order further underscores the theme of chaos as a balancing force. When his nephew Ben Solo, later Kylo Ren, turned to the dark side, it was a stark reminder that even those with the purest intentions could fall prey to the seductive pull of power. Luke's temporary withdrawal from the galaxy reflected his acknowledgement of the Jedi's failures. He came to realize that the cycle of light versus dark was perpetuated not by the Force itself, but by those who sought to wield it for their purposes. Kylo Ren and Rey's intertwined destinies serve as a modern embodiment of the Force's balancing act. Kylo, a product of the Skywalker legacy, represents the dangers of obsession with power and legacy. Rey, initially an unknown scavenger, emerges as a counterbalance to Kylo's darkness. Their connection through the Force, a bond that transcends traditional light and dark affiliations, symbolizes the Force's attempt to bridge the divide between opposing ideologies. In their confrontations and eventual alliance, the Force demonstrates its preference for unity over division. The defeat of Supreme Leader Snoke, another powerful Sith-aligned figure, did not bring an end to the chaos but rather set the stage for further conflict. Snoke's death at the hands of Kylo Ren illustrated once again how the Force uses chaos to dismantle entrenched power structures. Kylo's subsequent rise to power was short-lived, as the galaxy continued to resist any single faction's dominance. The final battle against Palpatine's remnants on Exegol solidified the notion that the Force does not tolerate prolonged imbalance. The combined efforts of Rey, Ben Solo, and the galaxy's united forces led to Palpatine's ultimate defeat, but not without significant sacrifice. Rey's role in this final conflict and her subsequent decision to embrace the Skywalker name symbolize a new chapter in the Force's narrative. Unlike the Jedi of old, Rey represents a more holistic understanding of the Force. She is neither bound by the strictures of the ancient Jedi Order nor consumed by the ambitions of the Sith. Her journey reflects the Force's evolution, moving away from binary oppositions towards a more integrated approach. Rey's connection to both the light and dark sides suggests that true balance lies in embracing the complexity of the Force rather than attempting to control it. The galaxy's enduring state of flux, even after the defeat of Palpatine, emphasizes the Force's resistance to stagnation. Each victory and defeat, each rise and fall, contributes to the ongoing cycle of balance and imbalance. The Force thrives in this dynamic environment, constantly recalibrating in response to the actions of those who seek to wield it. This cyclical nature is evident in the galaxy's history, where moments of peace are always followed by renewed conflict. The Force's true nature is not static harmony but perpetual motion, a dance between opposing forces that ensures the survival of the galaxy. The events of Order 66 and the fall of the Empire highlight how the Force uses chaos as a tool for balance. The Jedi, blinded by their belief in their moral superiority, failed to see the growing threat of the Sith until it was too late. Their destruction, while tragic, was a necessary correction to centuries of complacency and overreach. Similarly, the Sith's rise and subsequent fall under Palpatine demonstrated the unsustainability of their ruthless pursuit of power. In both cases, the Force allowed chaos to dismantle the old order, paving the way for new possibilities. The idea that no one group can control the Force is central to understanding its role in the galaxy. Both the Jedi and Sith sought to impose their will upon the Force, each in their way claiming to serve its true purpose. Yet time and again, the Force has proven that it cannot be confined to a single ideology or agenda. The Jedi's emphasis on selflessness and detachment, while noble, often led to rigidity and disconnection from the realities of life. The Sith's embrace of passion and power, though empowering, ultimately resulted in self-destruction and tyranny. Both paths, though seemingly opposed, are equally flawed in their attempt to dominate the Force. The Force's true nature lies beyond the binaries of light and dark. It encompasses all aspects of existence, from creation to destruction, from order to chaos. By attempting to control it, the Jedi and Sith inadvertently disrupted its natural balance, forcing the Force to respond with corrective chaos. This chaos, though often destructive, serves a higher purpose. It breaks down the old to make way for the new, ensuring that the galaxy remains vibrant and dynamic. In this light, the deaths of Palpatine and the collapse of the Jedi Order can be seen not as ultimate victories or defeats, but as necessary transitions. They are moments in the endless cycle of balance and imbalance, order and chaos. The galaxy, like the Force itself, is in a constant state of evolution, shaped by the actions of those who inhabit it. Yet, no matter how powerful or influential these individuals or groups may be, they are ultimately subject to the will of the Force. Their rise and fall are part of a larger, cosmic design, one that ensures the continuity of life in all its forms. The balance of the Force, as exemplified by the rise and fall of both the Jedi and the Sith, is not a static equilibrium but a dynamic process driven by chaos and renewal. The notion that either faction could maintain long-term control over the Force misunderstands its very essence. This principle was vividly demonstrated in the era following Palpatine's death. While the galaxy experienced a temporary sense of liberation, it was soon clear that the struggle for balance was far from over. The Force continued to work through individuals and events, ensuring that no single ideology or group could dominate indefinitely. The post-imperial period brought new challenges, with remnants of the Empire transforming into the First Order. This resurgence of darkness was not a failure of the Force, but rather a continuation of its balancing act. The First Order's rapid rise demonstrated that even in moments of apparent victory for the light, the seeds of the dark side remained. This resurgence was not merely a political phenomenon, but a manifestation of the Force's cyclical nature. Just as the Sith had once risen from the ashes of the Old Republic, so too did the First Order emerge from the remnants of the Empire. At the heart of this new conflict were Rey and Kylo Ren, two individuals deeply connected to the Force, yet representing different aspects of its nature. Their ongoing struggle highlighted the complexity of balance. Kylo Ren, as the leader of the First Order, embodied the chaos and ambition of the dark side. His actions were driven by a desire to forge a new path, free from the constraints of both the Jedi and the Sith. Yet, in doing so, he fell into the same patterns of domination and control that had characterized the Sith before him. Rey, by contrast, was initially an outsider to the legacy of the Force. Her journey from a scavenger on Jakku to the last hope of the Jedi exemplifies the Force's tendency to choose unlikely champions. Rey's natural affinity with the Force and her eventual discovery of her lineage tied her directly to the ongoing struggle for balance. However, unlike the Jedi of the past, Rey's understanding of the Force evolved beyond the traditional binaries. She recognized that the Force was not solely a tool for peace or war, but a living entity that encompassed all aspects of existence. The climactic confrontation on Exegol between Rey, Ben Solo, and the resurrected Palpatine once again illustrated the Force's reliance on chaos to dismantle entrenched power. Palpatine, having cheated death through unnatural means, sought to reassert his control over the galaxy and the Force itself. His ultimate plan to transfer his essence into Rey was an act of ultimate hubris, as it ignored the Force's inherent resistance to such control. The ensuing battle was not just a fight between light and dark, but a pivotal moment where the Force rejected Palpatine's unnatural influence. In the end, it was the combined actions of Rey and Ben Solo that led to Palpatine's final defeat. This victory, however, did not come from adherence to old doctrines or the triumph of one side over the other. Instead, it was the result of unity and sacrifice. Ben's redemption and his decision to save Rey at the cost of his own life marked a profound shift in the Force. It demonstrated that balance could only be achieved when individuals embraced both their light and dark aspects, using their connection to the Force for purposes beyond personal gain. Rey's subsequent decision to adopt the Skywalker name symbolized her acknowledgement of this new understanding. By choosing to carry forward the legacy of the Skywalkers, she bridged the gap between the old Jedi Order and a new era of Force users. This act was not about reviving the past, but about learning from it, forging a path that honored the complexities of the Force. Rey's refusal to rebuild the Jedi Order in its previous form was a tacit recognition that the old ways, while noble in intent, were ultimately flawed. The galaxy, following the defeat of Palpatine, did not return to a state of perfect peace. Instead, it entered another period of rebuilding and redefinition. This ongoing state of flux is not a failure but a reflection of the Force's true nature. Chaos and conflict are not anomalies within the Force but essential components of its balancing mechanism. Each new challenge, whether in the form of political instability or the emergence of new Force-sensitive individuals, serves as an opportunity for growth and renewal. The idea that balance requires the absence of conflict is a misunderstanding perpetuated by both the Jedi and Sith. True balance, as demonstrated through galactic history, involves the constant interplay between order and disorder, creation and destruction. The Jedi, in their pursuit of harmony, often sought to suppress the chaotic elements of life, such as passion and ambition. The Sith, conversely, sought to exploit these elements to their fullest extent, often at the expense of stability and life itself. Both approaches, while seemingly opposite, were inherently unbalanced. The Force's resistance to control is also evident in its relationship with individuals who attempt to dominate it. Whether it is Palpatine's fall or Anakin Skywalker's transformation into Darth Vader, the Force ultimately reclaims its equilibrium by dismantling these power structures. Even the most powerful Force users, regardless of their alignment, are subject to its larger will. Their victories and defeats, their rises and falls, are all part of the Force's endless cycle of balance and imbalance. In the end, the story of the Force is one of perpetual motion. It cannot be owned, tamed, or permanently aligned with any one faction. Its balance comes not from the absence of conflict, but from the constant interplay of opposing forces. This dynamic ensures that life in the galaxy remains vibrant and ever-changing. The defeat of Palpatine and the fall of the Sith were not endpoints but turning points in this ongoing narrative. The galaxy will continue to face new challenges and conflicts, and the Force will continue to guide its inhabitants towards balance, often through the very chaos they seek to escape. This understanding of the Force challenges traditional notions of good and evil, suggesting that both are necessary components of a larger cosmic design. The Jedi and Sith, for all their differences, are merely players in a grander scheme, each contributing to the Force's eternal quest for balance. It is through chaos and renewal, through the rise and fall of empires, that the Force ensures the galaxy's survival and growth. The Force's inherent nature as a balancing entity transcends the ambitions of those who seek to control it. Both the Jedi and the Sith have, throughout history, pursued dominance in their own ways, often believing their ideologies to be the true path. However, Their cyclical rise and fall underscore the Force's ultimate resistance to such unilateral control. This cosmic resistance is particularly evident in the major galactic upheavals tied to Order 66 and Palpatine's defeat, which serve as pivotal examples of the Force's balancing through chaos. The Jedi Order's downfall was not merely a result of Palpatine's cunning, but a culmination of their own detachment and hubris. For centuries, the Jedi acted as guardians of peace, but their rigid adherence to the light side and their increasing involvement in politics made them susceptible to manipulation. The Clone Wars, a conflict engineered by the Sith, provided the perfect opportunity for their downfall. By becoming generals in the Republic's army, the Jedi strayed from their spiritual roots and became instruments of war. This shift weakened their connection to the Force's natural flow and left them vulnerable to the darkness growing within the Republic itself. Order 66, the mass extermination of the Jedi, was a catastrophic moment in galactic history, but also a necessary event in the Force's process of recalibration. The destruction of the Jedi Order allowed the Force to correct the imbalance caused by their long-standing dominance. The chaos that followed, with the rise of the Galactic Empire, was not an aberration but a transitional phase. The Force uses such upheaval to dismantle outdated structures, creating space for new ideologies and individuals to emerge. Palpatine's rise to power represented the Sith's most significant victory. Through his mastery of the dark side, he orchestrated a grand deception that spanned decades, manipulating both the Republic and the Jedi to achieve his ultimate goal of galactic domination. Yet, despite his immense power, Palpatine's reign was inherently unstable. The dark side, while potent, thrives on imbalance and destruction. His empire, built on fear and oppression, was destined to collapse under the weight of its contradictions. The Force, through the chaos of rebellion and the resilience of its champions, worked to dismantle his rule. The Rebel Alliance's victory at the Battle of Endor, marked by the destruction of the second Death Star and Palpatine's apparent death, was a significant turning point. However, it did not signify the end of the Force's balancing process. The galaxy's transition from Imperial rule to the New Republic was fraught with challenges, illustrating that balance is not a static state, but an ongoing process. The remnants of the Empire, reorganized as the First Order, rose to challenge the fragile peace, continuing the cycle of conflict. The emergence of Rey and Kylo Ren in this new era reflected the Force's continued effort to balance itself. Rey, despite her humble origins, became a beacon of hope and resilience. Her innate connection to the Force and her determination to forge her path made her a unique figure in the galaxy's history. Unlike the Jedi of old, Rey was not constrained by dogma. Her journey was one of self-discovery, guided by the Force in ways that transcended traditional teachings. Kylo Ren, conversely, embodied the turmoil and ambition of the dark side. As the grandson of Darth Vader, he carried the legacy of both the Jedi and the Sith. His internal struggle between light and dark mirrored the larger conflict within the Force. Kylo's actions, driven by a desire to break free from the past, often brought destruction and chaos. Yet, this chaos was an integral part of the Force's balancing act. Through his connection to Rey, Kylo became a crucial figure in the Force's attempt to bridge the divide between light and dark. The final confrontation on Exegol, where Palpatine revealed his return, was a climactic moment in the Force's ongoing narrative. Palpatine's resurrection, facilitated by Sith rituals and dark technologies, represented an unnatural prolonging of the Sith's influence. His plan to consolidate power once again, using Rey as a vessel, was a direct challenge to the Force's balance. However, the combined efforts of Rey, Ben Solo, and the galaxy's united forces ultimately thwarted his ambitions. Rey's confrontation with Palpatine was a defining moment. In channeling the strength of past Jedi, she demonstrated that the Force's light side, when wielded with clarity and purpose, could counter the dark. Yet her victory was not a simple triumph of light over dark. It was the culmination of a complex journey that acknowledged the necessity of both aspects of the Force. Rey's refusal to embrace Palpatine's legacy and her decision to forge her path underscored a deeper understanding of balance. Ben Solo's redemption, culminating in his self-sacrifice to save Rey, was another pivotal moment. His return to the light and his ultimate act of compassion reinforced the theme of unity and reconciliation. Ben's journey from darkness to light, from Kylo Ren to Ben Solo, was a microcosm of the Force's broader balancing act. His sacrifice, though tragic, was a necessary part of the galaxy's healing process. The defeat of Palpatine and the end of the Sith Order marked a significant shift in the Force's balance. However, this balance was not about the triumph of the Jedi or the light side. It was about the Force reasserting its natural state, free from the dominance of any single faction. The galaxy, as always, would continue to face new challenges, but these challenges were part of the ongoing cycle of renewal and transformation. Rey's choice to take on the Skywalker name symbolized a new beginning. It was a recognition of the past and a commitment to a future that embraced the complexities of the Force. By rejecting the binary extremes of Jedi and Sith, Rey charted a path that honored the Force's true nature. The galaxy, under her guidance and the renewed understanding of the Force, would continue to evolve, shaped by the lessons of the past and the possibilities of the future. In the end, the Force remains a constant, ever-present entity that cannot be controlled or subdued. Its balance comes not from the dominance of light or dark, but from their coexistence. Through chaos and conflict, through the rise and fall of empires, the Force ensures the galaxy's survival and growth. The stories of the Jedi, the Sith, and all who come after are but chapters in the larger narrative of the Force, a narrative defined by the eternal quest for balance.